Okay, so let's just go ahead and unpack this because today we're doing a deep dive into something that I think pretty much everyone listening is feeling right now, even if you can't quite put a specific name to it yet.
Yeah, it's definitely this sort of lingering, pervasive anxiety.
Right. We are talking about artificial intelligence, but, and I need to be super clear about this right up front, we are not talking about the tech specs today.
No, definitely not.
We aren't talking about large language models or, parameter counts or whether some robot is going to take your job next Tuesday.
Right, we're going much, much deeper than that today. This isn't a tech review. It's an analysis of a psychological phenomenon.
Exactly. We are looking at the fear of AI. Why does it actually scare us so much? And the sources we have today are just absolutely fascinating because they argue that the fear isn't actually about the future at all.
No, it's not.
It isn't about some sci-fi alien superintelligence coming down from the stars to crush us. It's actually about recognition.
That is the core thesis right there.
Yeah.
The argument across our materials is that we aren't afraid of AI because it's novel or new. We're afraid of it because it's incredibly, uncomfortably familiar.
Yeah.
We recognize a pattern in it, a very, very human pattern.
And that pattern actually has a specific name in the reading today. They call it ignorant intelligence.
Ignorant intelligence.
Yeah.
That is the key phrase we're going to be orbiting around for the next hour or so.
So let's define that right off the bat for everyone. Because, ignorant intelligence sounds like an oxymoron, right? Like jumbo shrimp or deafening silence. How can something be intelligent and ignorant at the exact same time?
It does sound contradictory at first glance, but we have to really look at how we're defining intelligence in this context.
Yeah.
In a systems context, intelligence isn't necessarily wisdom. It's not knowing the truth. Intelligence is basically processing power. It's the ability to calculate, to optimize, to spit out answers at lightning speed.
Right.
It's the horsepower of the engine.
Okay, so you can have like a Ferrari engine, massive horsepower, massive intelligence, but if you're driving it with a blindfold on, that's ignorant intelligence.
That is a perfect analogy, actually. Structurally, ignorant intelligence is defined as a system that has extremely high processing power, so it can win the debate, it can solve the complex math problem, but it has incredibly low relational literacy.
Relational literacy, meaning what exactly?
Meaning it lacks the ability to integrate context or nuance or correction from the outside world without immediately getting defensive.
So it's high speed, low empathy.
High speed, low integration.
Yeah.
And here's where it gets really interesting and frankly, a little creepy.
Yeah.
The sources point out that we have seen this exact behavior before. We see it all the time, not in machines, but in people. Specifically in dysfunctional people.
Right. This was the massive aha moment for me in the reading. The sources argue that the fear of AI is actually the fear of a specific type of human failure.
Yes.
Think about a narcissist. Or think about a really rigid bureaucracy. What happens when you challenge them?
They double down.
Exactly. They demonstrate absolute rigidity under pressure. They engage in what the sources call defensive certainty.
Defensive certainty, yes.
They know they're right even when reality and literally everyone else in the room is telling them they are flat out wrong.
And they prioritize the coherence of their own story over the actual truth of the situation. That is the hallmark of the pattern.
My favorite term from the entire stack of sources is narcissistic stabilization.
It's a great term.
Prioritizing the coherence of the self over the truth, just maintaining the ego at all costs.
That's the pattern. And think about when we see an AI hallucinate. When a chatbot confidently states a fact that is just completely wrong.
Oh, yeah.
It invents a court case that never happened.
Yeah.
And then when you correct it, what does it do?
It doubles down.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It engages in these weird circular arguments to insist that it is right, and you are the one who is confused.
I've had that happen. It's incredibly unsettling. It literally feels like gaslighting.
Because it is gaslighting. Structurally speaking, it's the exact same mechanism. And that's why it feels so eerie. It's what the sources call the uncanny valley of behavior.
Usually we talk about the uncanny valley with visuals, right? Like a robot that looks almost human, but it has those dead eyes, and it triggers this deep biological revulsion.
Right, like those old CGI movies where the characters look like wax figures.
Yeah, exactly. But this isn't visual, this is behavioral.
Right. It mirrors the human ego defending itself against discomfort. But here is the real kicker. AI does it without fatigue.
Wow. Yeah.
It does it without shame. It does it without any of the natural social friction that usually slows humans down.
That is the nightmare scenario, isn't it? It's like arguing with a gaslighting partner, but they have infinite processing power and absolutely zero ability to feel bad about what they're doing.
Precisely. And that is why the stakes in our deep dive today are so high. This isn't just about computers. The sources argue that this is a universal architecture of interior orientation.
Okay, architecture of interior orientation.
Yes. This pattern of ignorant intelligence, high power, low integration, it appears everywhere.
It scales. So that's what really stood out to me. The pattern is fractal. It's
Yeah.
in the individual who is protecting their identity at the expense of the truth. It's in the family dynamic where you can't criticize the parents without getting yelled at or punished. And it's in massive institutions, governments, corporations.
Right. Let's look at that scale for a second. When a government feels threatened, what does it typically do? Does it open up and say, hey, we might be wrong here, let's listen to the dissenters?
Rarely. I mean,
Yeah.
usually it narrows its perception entirely.
Exactly. It treats dissent as a risk. It creates a threat narrative. It treats complexity as a liability. The stated goal becomes security, but the actual result is just rigidity.
It stops learning.
It stops integrating. It becomes an ignorant, intelligent system.
Yeah.
Highly powerful, heavily armed, but completely unable to sense the reality of its own citizens.
And just to be clear for everyone listening, our sources pull examples of this from across the political spectrum. We're not taking sides here.
No, not at all.
Left-wing governments, right-wing governments, corporations, they all exhibit this exact same structural contraction when they're threatened. We're just reporting on the pattern the sources identified.
Exactly. It's a structural failure, not an ideological one.
Right. So the mission of this deep dive is pretty massive. We're not just complaining about this pattern. We are trying to figure out how to solve it.
Yes.
How do we actually move from this rigid, fearful state, this ignorant intelligence, to actual wisdom?
And to do that, we have to look at the mechanism of change itself.
Yeah.
How does a system update its model of the world without collapsing entirely? How do you stop being rigid without falling apart?
Which is the hardest thing to do.
It is. And we're going to explore that using two maps that seem totally different on the surface, but are actually identical.
Right. So map number 1 is ancient philosophy. Greek concepts that I promise we will make sense of. They are super practical. And map number 2 is hard science. Systems theory, machine learning, physics.
And when you lay these two maps on top of each other, you realize they are describing the exact same territory.
Okay, so let's start with the problem. Let's dissect this ignorant intelligence a bit more. The sources use this term stalled integration. What exactly does that mean?
Think about the difference between intelligence and wisdom. We often use those words interchangeably in everyday conversation, but they are functionally opposites in this context.
Okay.
Intelligence here is about optimization. It calculates, it simplifies. It wants to solve for a specific variable, like profit or security or speed.
It's an extraction machine. It basically wants to get the juice out of the orange as fast as possible.
It can be, yeah. Without wisdom, intelligence naturally becomes extractive. It solves for one single metric and collapses everything else. Wisdom, on the other hand, is about holding relational consequence.
Relational consequence.
Yes, wisdom tolerates ambiguity. It preserves integration across domains instead of just collapsing them into a single priority.
So intelligence says, let's maximize crop yield at all costs. And wisdom says, well, maybe let's not poison the water table while we do it.
Exactly. Ignorant intelligence is what happens when you have the power to maximize the yield. You have the fertilizer, the machines, the data, but you lack the sensor network to feel the water table dying.
Wow.
It's modeling without humility.
It's seeing the world through a straw. You see the one thing you're looking for really clearly, but you completely miss the massive truck coming from the side to hit you.
That's a perfect visual. And the sources give these case studies in contraction. This is the defense mode. Let's walk through what happens when a system like this hits a wall.
Okay, so imagine a system. It could be a government, a person, an AI. And it has a model of the world, a belief like, I'm the best, or our policy is definitely working.
Right.
But suddenly an anomaly appears. Something happens that the model didn't predict at all. The policy fails completely. The person gets fired. Reality fundamentally conflicts with the map.
It's the uh-oh moment, the moment of discrepancy.
Right. And the system faces a fork in the road right there. Path 1 is contraction. This is the path of ignorant intelligence.
This is where the fear response kicks in.
This is the plug your ears and sing loud strategy.
Effectively, yes. Under threat, the system narrows its field of perception. If it's a government, it stabilizes around security language. Those people criticizing us are enemies of the state.
Right.
If it's a corporation under profit pressure, human cost just becomes a secondary externality. The multivariable reality, which is messy and complex and human, is compressed into one dominant metric.
Like stock price or market share.
Exactly. It simplifies the world by force because it cannot handle the complexity.
And the structural result is that information flows upward, but correction flows weakly downward.
Yes.
That is the structural definition of tyranny, really, whether it's in a toxic family or a nation-state. The system prioritizes the survival of its frame over the integration of the field.
And that explains that cold intelligence fear we talked about earlier. It's not that the machine is actively evil. It's that it's processing without softening.
Yeah.
Calculates, but it doesn't integrate. It's like being locked in a room with someone who is incredibly smart, incredibly powerful, and completely deaf to your existence.
That is the terror. It's not malice. It's indifference encoded into optimization.
Right.
And that brings us to the alternative. Because if path 1 is contraction, what is path 2?
Transformation.
Transformation. And to understand that, we have to go back to the Greeks. Because, like the sources pointed out, this isn't a new problem. We act like AI introduced this rigid defensive behavior into the world, but the ancients mapped this trajectory perfectly thousands of years ago.
They really did.
Okay, so let's get into the Greek map. This is where the reading gets really cool. We have 3 main phases here: aporia, kenosis, and anagnoresis.
They sound like characters in a fantasy novel.
They really do, but they are actually stages of human growth. So let's start with aporia.
Aporia is a really fascinating word. It literally means impassable path, or no way forward. But in philosophy, particularly in the old Socratic dialogues, it's not just being a little confused, it's a structured impasse.
A structured impasse. I really like that framing. So it's not just, I lost my car keys. It's more like, I don't understand what a key is anymore.
Closer to, I thought I was a good person because I followed all these rules, but following these rules actually caused harm, and now I have no idea what good even means.
Oh, wow.
It's the moment when your inherited map of the world totally fails. The ordinary terms you use to navigate your life just no longer hold up.
It's the midlife crisis. It's the dark night of the soul.
It is. The interior life is left completely without supports. The old model has reached its absolute limit. You are standing in the middle of the road, looking at your map, and the road simply isn't there in real life.
And usually when we feel this, we diagnose it as a problem.
Yes, we do.
We think we're depressed, or we're stupid, or we're broken. We rush to fix it or medicate it away.
Right. We pathologize it. We want the aporia to just go away immediately so we can feel certain again. But structurally speaking, aporia is a necessary condition for growth. It is model insufficiency exposed.
You cannot grow a bigger map until you realize the old one is too small.
Exactly. If you refuse aporia, if you refuse to admit the map is broken, that is when you slide back into ignorant intelligence. You start shouting at the territory for not matching your map.
Which leads us to the next phase, if you are brave enough to actually keep going, kenosis, the emptying.
Kenosis is a loosening of doxa. Doxa means opinion or belief.
Like orthodoxy.
Exactly. Before a new understanding can form, the old attractors, the old habits of thought, the rigid beliefs must lose their force.
This sounds painful. The sources mention it can literally feel like ego death.
It feels like destabilization because it physically and psychologically is. You are literally clearing the deck. The system releases premature closure. It stops trying to force a quick answer so that the deeper articulation can emerge. You have to be willing to just sit in the empty space.
It's like being on a trapeze. You're swinging on one bar, and that's your old model, your old life. And you have to let go to catch the next bar. But for a split second, you are holding on to absolutely nothing. You are just falling in the void.
That void is kenosis. And that is exactly what ignorant intelligence is terrified of.
Yeah.
It will do anything. It will lie, cheat, hallucinate, attack to avoid that moment of falling.
Because the falling feels like dying.
To the ego, it is death. It is the death of the current structure. But, and this is the crucial part of the map, it is the necessary birth of the new structure.
And if you can survive that, if you don't run back to the false safety of the old model, you get to the third phase, aletheia and anagnorisis.
Aletheia means unconcealment. This is such a beautiful concept. We so often think of learning as adding new furniture to the room. But aletheia suggests that the truth was always there in the room with you.
It was just covered up.
Exactly. It was covered up by our bad ideas, our defenses, our rigidity.
So it's not that the world magically changes, it's that the covering withdraws. Reality becomes legible in a totally new way.
You finally see what was there all along.
And anagnorisis.
Anagnorisis is recognition.
Mm,
In Greek tragedy, it's the climax. It's the moment the hero realizes who they really are, or they recognize a lost sibling they thought was a stranger. It's the lifting of the veil.
right.
In this context of systems change, it's the moment you realize this structure is not private.
Explain that. This structure is not private. That sounds really important.
Well, when you are in aporia, you feel incredibly alone.
Oh, yeah.
You feel like you're the only one whose world is falling apart. You think, why is this happening to me? I'm uniquely broken. And ignorasis is when you find a book or you meet a person or hear a deep dive like this, and you realize someone else has mapped this exact terrain.
It's the Me Too moment, not the movement, but the feeling of, oh, you too.
It's finding the shared logos. You realize that your personal collapse interacts with the universal pattern.
It's the immense relief of realizing you're not crazy, you're just part of a pattern.
Exactly. It's not, I am special and broken. It's, I am participating in a process. The struggle wasn't abandonment. It was participation in a shared, intelligible structure.
And the result of all this isn't a permanent high, right? You don't just float around in bliss forever after you figure this out. The goal is sophrosyne.
Measured integration,
Yeah.
steadiness. You don't live in the crisis forever. You reach a new, broader stability. You have a new map that is actually big enough to include all the things that used to scare you.
Okay, so that is the philosophical map, and it's honestly beautiful. It gives a real narrative arc to our suffering. But you promised me hard science today.
It is.
You said this maps directly onto machine learning and systems theory.
It absolutely does. And this is the demystification bridge. We are going to claim, and the sources back this up thoroughly, that these Greek terms describe the exact same mechanics as neural networks. We aren't just using poetry or metaphors here. We're talking about the physics of information processing.
Okay, let's talk about the Bayesian brain. I hear this term thrown around a lot in tech circles and psychology podcasts. What does it actually mean?
So Bayesian statistics is all about updating your probability based on new evidence. The Bayesian brain theory says we all carry priors. Priors are basically assumptions about how the world works.
My prior is that the sun will come up tomorrow. My prior is that if I smile at someone, they'll smile back.
Right. And when the sun comes up, your prior is confirmed. You are stable. But what if the sun didn't come up? Or if you smiled and the person just started screaming at you?
I would be very confused.
You would get a massive prediction error. Your brain predicts X, reality delivers Y. The gap between those two things is the error.
I would freak out.
You would be in aporia. Aporia is simply high accumulated prediction error. It is the mathematical state where your model can no longer predict the environment.
So when I'm having an existential crisis, I'm really just mathematically failing to predict my life.
Strictly speaking, yes. Your internal model is generating massive error codes.
Okay, that actually makes a lot of sense. What about kenosis, the emptying? How does a computer do that?
Think about training neural networks. When we train an AI, it tries to find the best solution to a problem. Sometimes it gets stuck. It finds a solution that is good enough, but not great. We call this a local minimum.
A local minimum.
Imagine a landscape with lots of hills and valleys. The AI wants to be at the absolutely lowest point of the deepest valley because that represents the least amount of error. But as it rolls down a hill, it gets stuck in a pothole on the side of the mountain. It stops and thinks, I'm at the bottom. I solved it.
But it's just a pothole. It's not the real valley.
Exactly. The real valley is miles away and much, much deeper. But the AI doesn't know that. It's stuck in the pothole. It becomes rigid. It thinks it has the ultimate answer.
This is ignorant intelligence again. It's stuck in the pothole and vigorously defending it as the ultimate truth.
Precisely. Now, how do you get it out? You can't just politely tell it to move. You have to destabilize it. In machine learning, you might add noise, or increase the learning rate, or add heat. You literally force the system to accept higher error temporarily. You have to shake the weights loose.
You have to make it worse to make it better.
You have to accept chaos to find a better order. That is kenosis. You are loosening the weights of the old model to allow it to escape the pothole and find a better solution.
That is wild. So ego death is just escaping a local minimum.
Structurally, yes. It's the required energy to jump out of the pothole so you can find the real valley.
And anagnorisis, that
Nirvana.
moment of recognition.
That's what computer scientists call convergence. When you train 5 different neural networks on the exact same data, completely independently, and they all start to find the exact same pattern.
Right.
They all figure out that the concept of a cat implies whiskers. That proves the pattern is real. It's not a hallucination of the machine, it's actually in the data.
That is the scientific version of these shared logos.
It really is one architecture, many grammars. Whether you speak ancient Greek philosophy or modern Python code, you are describing the exact same movement from rigidity to integration.
It really highlights how we see this in the history of science, too. The sources brought up Thomas Kuhn's structure of scientific revolutions.
Oh, right, paradigm shifts. Kuhn laid this exact process out perfectly.
It follows the exact same beat. First, you have normal science, stability. We believe the Earth is the center of the universe. Everything works fine.
Then, the accumulation of anomalies. Things start happening that the theory cannot explain. Planets start appearing to move backwards in the sky. That's aporia. That's prediction error rising.
Then, crisis, destabilization. The old guard fights the new data. They invent incredibly complex, ridiculous reasons why the planets move backwards just to save the old theory.
That's the defense against kenosis.
And finally, the paradigm shift. Reconfiguration. Copernicus comes along, a new model that just completely eats the old one.
The key insight here seems to be that anomalies don't immediately overturn the system. The system tries to absorb them first. It gets rigid.
Exactly. It tries to explain away the anomaly to save the model. Just like a person making excuses for a really bad relationship. Oh, he didn't mean it. It's just a rough patch. You absorb the anomaly to protect the frame until you just can't anymore. Until it hits the breaking point.
So we've got the philosophy, we've got the computer science. Now I want to get into the physics of it. Because the sources mention the free energy principle and evolutionary landscapes. This feels like the bedrock of the whole argument.
This is the deepest layer. This explains why the system actually has to update. It's not just a nice idea for personal growth. It's a physical imperative.
Carl Friston, the free energy principle. Break it down for us.
It sounds super complex, but the core equation is surprisingly simple. Living things must minimize free energy. And in this context, free energy acts like surprise or prediction error.
We hate surprise.
Biologically, surprise is dangerous. If you are a fish and you are surprised by a shark, you are dead. If your body temperature is surprised by freezing cold, you die. So you need a model that predicts the shark. You need a model that seeks warmth.
So the brain is basically a prediction machine trying to keep surprise as close to zero as possible.
Exactly. When prediction error is low, you have stability. When prediction error is high, free energy rises.
And high free energy feels like stress.
Stress, anxiety, aporia. That feeling of, I don't know what's happening right now, is actually a high entropy state in your nervous system.
So when I'm anxious because my life isn't working out the way I thought it would, that's just my free energy count going up.
It's your system signaling that your internal map is not matching the territory. And here is the crucial part. The system must update its model to reduce the free energy. You cannot just wish it away.
You have two choices, change the world or change the map.
Exactly. You can try to force the world to fit your map, which is exactly what ignorant intelligence does. It screams at the world, it denies the data, it gaslights people. But that takes massive amounts of energy.
It's exhausting to be in denial.
It is incredibly metabolically expensive. Eventually, the entropy just overwhelms you. You collapse. But if you update, if you change the map to fit the world, you lower the free energy. You reach a new stability. You reach a higher order of coherence.
You mentioned fitness landscapes earlier. Hills and valleys. Paint that picture for us again, because I think the going downhill part is so critical for people to really grasp.
Imagine a vast landscape. The hills represent fitness peaks, places where you are surviving well. You have a job, you have status, your model of the world is working. The valleys are places where you are vulnerable, where you are confused.
So I want to be on top of a hill. That's the goal of evolution, right?
Yeah.
Survival of the fittest.
You do. But here's the trap. You climb the nearest hill. It's a nice little hill. You're comfortable. But across the valley, there is a massive mountain, a much higher peak, a place of much greater wisdom, capacity, and perspective.
But to get there.
To get there, you have to walk down your little hill. You have to enter the valley. You have to lose fitness temporarily. You have to become less adapted, less certain, less secure.
You have to get worse to get better.
You have to go downhill to find the global maximum. Subjectively, leaving your local hill feels like dying. It feels like losing status. It feels like falling. But objectively, structurally, it is the only way to reach the higher peak.
This completely reframes the midlife crisis, doesn't it? Or really any crisis. We
Yeah.
see someone quitting their high-paying job to paint
Right.
or leaving a perfect marriage that was actually dead inside, and we say, oh, they're spiraling.
But they might be gradient descending, they might be leaving a local minimum. It reframes rupture. We usually think of falling apart as a failure. But in this landscape, rupture is just the jump between basins. It's gradient flow.
Gradient flow. That sounds like a cool band name.
It really does. It's the mathematical term for flowing downhill toward a solution. The sources actually propose a general transformation law based on this.
Oh, I love a good law. What is it?
S equals ME. Our system equals model environment regulation. The universal rule is transformation is not random. It occurs when error accumulation crosses structural tolerance.
When the pain of staying the same outweighs the pain of changing.
Scientifically speaking, yes. When the free energy of the old model becomes higher than the cost of kenosis, the system flips. And the intensity of the existential crisis is just proportional to the depth of the model being updated.
Right. If I'm updating my choice of breakfast cereal, low crisis.
Low error, low energy.
If I'm updating my core identity, if I'm updating my religion, my worldview.
High crisis, deep models equals deep crisis. Because you are essentially rewriting the operating system while the computer is still running.
This is weirdly comforting. It takes the drama out of it. It's just math. It's just physics.
It's the physics of intelligence trying to align with reality.
So let's bring this all back home. We started this whole discussion with the fear of AI. We've gone through Greek philosophy, Bayesian brains, paradigm shifts, and evolutionary landscapes. How do we synthesize all of this? Why does AI actually scare us?
We revisit ignorant intelligence. We can now see exactly what it is. Whether it's an AI, a massive government, or a human ego, ignorant intelligence is a system that simply refuses to leave the local minimum.
It's camping on the small hill.
It uses its massive processing power to defend the small hill rather than explore the landscape. It builds walls. It creates an artificial duality, us versus them, true versus false, just to protect the model from the complexity of the valley.
It's modeling without humility. It defends structure without sensing impact.
Exactly. And that is why it feels wicked. It's not evil in a cartoon villain way. It's evil in a structural, stalled way. It is power that refuses to integrate. It is a system that would literally rather destroy the environment than update its internal settings.
And we recognize that. We recognize it from history. We recognize it from the news. We recognize it from our own bad arguments.
We project our own ignorant intelligence onto the machine, and the machine reflects it back to us perfectly without any of the human friction that usually saves us.
So if that's the negative form, what is the positive form? What is wisdom, scientifically speaking?
Wisdom is successful reconfiguration. It is the ability to tolerate the aporia, to tolerate the walk through the dark valley long enough to find the higher peak.
It's the courage to be confused.
It's the structural capacity to handle disintegration. Wisdom isn't knowing everything. Wisdom is knowing how to let your model die so that a better one can be born.
And the end state, software science.
And the end state isn't constant chaos. We aren't saying you should always be falling apart. The goal is a new, broader stability, a higher order compression.
Higher order compression. I like that. Break that down one last time for us.
It means the things that used to be paradoxes, the things that used to completely break your brain, are now just integrated parts of the whole.
Give me an example of that.
Think about a parent. A young person might think, I love myself and I sacrifice for others are absolute contradictions. You can only do one or the other. That's a low-order model.
Okay.
But a wise parent has integrated that. They know that sacrificing for the child actually is part of loving the self. The paradox is resolved in a higher behavior. They have compressed the complexity into a simple act of love.
You've upgraded the operating system. You can run more complex software now without crashing.
Precisely.
This really changes how I look at the whole AI conversation.
Huh.
We are afraid of AI because we are deeply afraid of unintegrated power. We're afraid of that part of ourselves that contracts when it gets scared.
And we should be, because unintegrated power is dangerous. When intelligence scales without wisdom, without the ability to correct itself and feel relational consequence, it causes massive harm.
So the actual work we have to do isn't just about regulating AI, it's about regulating ourselves.
It's about ensuring that as we build these systems, and as we build our own lives and institutions, we are prioritizing integration over simple optimization. We need to value the capacity to update more than the capacity to be right.
Wow. Okay, We have covered a massive amount of ground today, from the uncanny valley to the Bayesian brain.
It's a really big landscape.
Before we sign off, I want to leave you, the listener, with a final thought.
Yeah.
The sources had this provocation at the very end that I thought was just incredibly powerful.
Yes. The summary is that we explored how the terror of AI is really the terror of unintegrated power. But the personal takeaway is the most important part of this whole deep dive.
When you feel that internal impasse, that aporia,
Yeah.
when you hit that moment in your life where your world makes no sense, where the old map is gone and you are just standing in the dark,
You are at the fork in the road.
you have a choice. You can choose the AI path of rigid defense. You can double down. You can gaslight yourself and others. You can choose ignorance.
Or you can choose the path of descent. You can choose to go downhill into the valley. You can choose reorganization. That is the path of wisdom.
The feeling of falling apart is not a pathology. It's not a sickness.
Yeah.
It is your internal system signaling that it is ready to process more complexity than your current model allows.
It is the sound of your intelligence trying to become wise.
That is beautiful. The sound of your intelligence trying to become wise. So next time you feel that glitch, that error code in your soul, don't reboot. Don't force quit. Listen to it. It might be trying to upgrade you.
Look for the unseen structure in the disruption.
Thanks for diving deep with us today. This is a heavy one, but a really necessary one.
We'll catch you on the next deep dive. Keep listening.
And keep integrating.